The year is 2007. The air is thick with Axe body spray. The world full of ringtone commercials. And somewhere in Atlanta, Georgia, T-Pain is entering a budding relationship with a bartender. But amidst this chaos, in the heart of America, something is stirring. It is the year of the Great Awakening, not of the spiritual kind, but of the hormonal variety. A new species begins to emerge, a mutation caused by hormones. The adolescent male, but not just any adolescent male. No, the post-Michael Bay adolescent male. This is the story of his hormone bomb, Transformers.
Real quick, gonna turn off the impersonation for a sec. That's right, I'm not AI. If you're enjoying these videos, please consider liking and subscribing. We're a small team piecing these videos together, and your support helps a ton. Thank you. Okay, back to the video.
Observe the adolescent male of the mid-aughts, otherwise known as the Juvenus vulgaris, a broad and deeply confused species sprawling across the ages of 8 to 13. This species, though unified by hormones and a longing for maturity, divides into distinct subspecies. Let's take a closer look. The 8 to 9-year-olds. The Juvenus snotnosia. They are the youngest, and still deeply enamoured with childlike activities. He idolises the so-called big kids, while still clinging to their toys and cartoons. He wants to be like his big brother, but still hasn't quite cracked the code on tying shoes. The 10 to 11-year-olds. Juvenus confusus. This group is in that awkward middle phase of adolescence, which is in itself a middle phase within a middle phase. They're convinced they know what cool is, but they're still clinging to the remnants of childhood. They wear oversized shirts, try to stay up late, and collect random mature items like aftershave, even though they have no use for them. They begin to desperately try to distance themselves from anything that might make them look like a baby, not realizing that this unrelenting need to appear older actually makes them look even more childish. And of course, we have the 12 to 13-year-olds, Juvenus Hyperius, the oldest and most tragically lost of the bunch. They think they are experts on life, unaware that they are still completely clueless. He appears unremarkable, and he is. Skinny, greasy, clutching his PSP and Razr cell phone for dear life. His voice squeaks like an unoiled door hinge. He accessorizes exclusively with far too many Livestrong bracelets and oversized DC skate shoes he cannot possibly skateboard in. His childlike innocence is slowly dwindling. The desire to be a man infects his every waking moment. That naivety of truly believing that being a grown-up will solve all his problems. Clearly, he has never set foot in a DMV. His natural enemies: homework, sunlight, respect. Puberty is beginning to creep in awkwardly. There are hints, of course. A rogue pimple here, a new odour there, but for the most part, it's manageable. Hormones simmer quietly like a microwave burrito. But no matter the age, one thing is clear. The Juvenus vulgaris is in a constant state of flux, somewhere between childhood and the mysterious allure of adulthood. However, on the sunny coast of Los Angeles, Hollywood is prepping to press a button. A big, loud button, lacking in all subtlety, and nothing, not even Call of Duty Modern Warfare, could possibly prepare these young men for what awaits them. A cinematic warhead falls from the sky. Transformers. The film arrives. The blast hits. Summer 2007. A biochemical weapon in disguise. Directed by Michael Bay, a man whose idea of emotional nuance and character development is two explosions happening at the same time. But regardless, his film is an evolutionary event. The Juvenus Vulgaris enters the theatre with a large soda and moderate expectations. Wearing cargo shorts, smelling faintly of nacho cheese, 144 minutes later, he exits as a man-child hybrid, brimming with adrenaline, confusion, and an overwhelming desire to Google, "Is Megan Fox single?" Jets scream across desert skies. Guitars wail patriotically in the background. The camera spins. The cars zoom. The giant robots clash. The screen flashes between detonations and product placements. You see, the Vulgaris is too young to remember the robots in disguise, the toy commercials playing on Saturday mornings in the 80s. This is his first foray into the Transformers world. Unlike his older cousin, who drove him to the theatre, he is not hit with a wave of nostalgia. Instead, the adolescent feels something else. Hope for the future. First the cars. Slick, roaring, morphing. It is the sound of testosterone given mechanical form. Camaro, Mustang, Hummer, names that echo through puberty like war drums. Next, the explosions. Michael Bay does not believe in silence. A building explodes, a tree explodes, time itself seems to explode, everything combusts, even the plot, especially the plot. And finally, we arrive at the Fox. Megan Fox. A fitting name indeed. She appears, leaning over the hood of a car, covered in sun, sweat, and some unknowable magic. To the young male brain, this moment is a signal, a point of no return. Suddenly, Naruto and Halo seem notably less entertaining. The theatre falls silent. Somewhere deep within the brain, a switch is flipped. Fight, flight, or Fox? A coordinated nationwide hormone spike so sharp it probably causes chemtrails. But the truth is more primal. Hormones roll out. Michael Bay, high priest of the action genre, delivers the sacred texts in 24 frames per second. He baptizes the audience in motor oil and lens flare. Under his guidance, a generation learns that love is fast, loud, and probably on fire. Transformers is transforming vehicles and young men's minds forever. Take Bumblebee, the embodiment of male puberty. He's loud, moody, and doesn't speak clearly. He knows how to flirt only by way of music and engine revving. You see, the very concept of Transformers is a metaphor. The vehicles represent innocence, the simplicity of getting from one place to another, the breeziness of childhood. But Optimus, in his prime, adulthood, dynamic, potential fully realized. The boys watching this nuke of a movie, they are still mid-transformation. Cars yearning to be gargantuan Autobots. Every frame is engineered to trigger something. Every shot is dialed to 11. By the second act, most are sweating. One yells in excitement at yet another explosion. Another stares blankly, mouth agape, from Megan Fox's blinking. Bay does not give them time to process. Some boys will see Transformers 3, 4, even 5 times, desperate to understand what the hell just happened to them. A cultural shift is underway. Entire middle school ecosystems collapse. Lunch tables are abandoned. Textbooks lie untouched. Well, that last part was always true, wasn't it? No boy walks out of that Megan Fox scene the same. Across the nation, 1 million pupils dilate in unison. 1 million mouths go dry. 1 million mothers wonder why their sons have started doing push-ups at 1 a.m. Scientists still debate what occurs at the neurological level. Some describe it as a spike in testosterone. Others call it a glitch in the matrix of childhood. The church calls it the devil, as it often does. Puberty is no longer simmering like a microwave burrito. It is being deep-fried at a chaotic state fair with questionable health inspections. Michael Bay has done something rather remarkable. He has taken the male fantasy and manifested it in the form of a film. But like all fantasies, eventually, they come crashing down in the face of reality. Eventually, of course, the blast is over. The theatres go quiet and make way for Spider-Pig. The smoke clears, but the damage is done. It is a national fallout. Across the country, millions of boys stagger out into the daylight, squinting, hearts racing, forever changed somewhere deep within. At the level of cellular confusion, something has shifted. We are now entering the fallout zone. Within days, the symptoms spread. Posters of skate brands and video game characters vanish overnight, replaced by Camaros, helicopters, and Megan Fox doing something vaguely mechanical. Middle school lockers become shrines to chrome, cleavage, and combustion. The Transformers soundtrack becomes a sacred text, passed around via burned CDs, stolen iPod Nanos, and LimeWire. Linkin Park's What I've Done becomes a hymn well before it would become a meme. They don't really know what it means, but somehow it still speaks to them. One boy tries to paint black racing stripes on his mom's minivan. Another swears he felt his Corolla try to transform when it hit a pothole. The car obsession begins. They don't know how engines work. They don't care. They just know this: if it doesn't look like Bumblebee, it is rubbish. One mother walks in on her child doing shirtless pull-ups in front of the bathroom mirror, whispering, "Freedom is the right of all sentient beings." They hum with a new kind of energy. They want to feel that rush again, so they turn to the symbols, the cars, the girl, and the military. And many of them, perhaps most, start to see something else in all that smoke and chrome. Purpose and identity. You see, it was never about the girl or the car or even the explosions. It's about what they represent, and in 2007, what they represent is no accident. Because Transformers didn't arrive in a vacuum, it landed right in the middle of a surge, a very real one, the global war on terror. Recruitment attempts for troops in Iraq and Afghanistan reach new heights. The Department of Defense is spending big on luring boys and men to fight in the desert, and suddenly here comes a blockbuster filled with heroic soldiers, gleaming military tech, and fighter jets silhouetted against golden skies. Coincidence? Possibly, but not likely. Is Michael Bay secretly just military personnel disguised as a movie director? As established, he does enjoy a good explosion. Rather suspicious. Well, behind the scenes, a real alliance is forged. The Pentagon-Hollywood pipeline. It's been confirmed that Transformers was indeed made with direct support from the US Department of Defense. They provide access to tanks, jets, aircraft carriers, the works. In exchange, a favourable portrayal. Transformers is just as much about getting boys to enlist as it is about entertainment. All you have to do is show them the dream. Camaros, camouflage, the girl who likes cars and looks like that. It implies that if they sign up, they might just end up in a tent with Josh Duhamel, a six-pack and a missile launcher. It worked better than anyone expected. Some boys went to basic training years later and were genuinely disappointed that Megan Fox wasn't waiting there with a socket wrench and bedroom eyes. Speaking of which, the girl. Yes, the girl. Man's primary motivation to do quite literally anything. The roads, the houses, the restaurants. Scientific advancement in medicine, technology, and the very fabric of society itself. All of it can be traced back to the girl. And hot girls in cars, a foundational male fantasy, delivered in high definition, perfect lighting. She's beautiful and knows what talk is. A queen indeed. She wants to ride in your car. She likes guys who drive stick. She thinks you're cool. But this, my friends, is nothing more than bait. And it's effective. That is, until they grow up. Eventually, they meet real women, smart women, funny women, independent women. Women who do not, under any circumstance, want to sit in a smoke-filled garage while you install LED lights on a used Honda Civic. Maybe he finds the one, but she has to move away. Maybe she cheats on him. Maybe she's narcissistic. Maybe his latent childhood trauma gets the better of him and he self-sabotages what was otherwise a perfectly good thing. Either way you roll it out, these women are simply not Megan Fox in Transformers 2007. And let's be honest, he wouldn't know what to do if she were. And suddenly, the fantasy feels paper thin. Because the Transformers girl wasn't real. She was written, lit and edited by men. I asked, dear viewer, do you recall her character's name? Doubtful, I'm afraid. Her purpose in this film was to sell both lust and lifestyle more than it was to act. And speaking of lifestyle, let's not forget the final pillar of the fantasy, the car. That Camaro, it was an industry plant, a Chevy product placement, laser targeted at a generation just old enough to dream, but not old enough to drive. And as many know, Chevys are not always the most reliable cars on the market, are they? Not the worst, I suppose, but be prepared for some maintenance. And no, that maintenance will not be performed by someone who looks like Megan Fox. General Motors partnered with the filmmakers to make Bumblebee a Camaro on purpose, resurrecting a dusty old muscle car line that was on its last legs. It worked like sorcery. Within a year, Chevy dealerships were full of teenage boys begging their parents for a car they didn't understand but had imprinted on. And of course their fathers who were starting something of a transformation themselves. They call it a midlife crisis. So let's tally the fantasy. A car that loves you back. A hot girl who knows her way around an engine and thinks you're interesting. A career path where you get to blow things up and look cool doing it. If you couldn't tell by now, none of it was real. At least, not all three at once. And certainly not for the vast majority of men today. And as the boys age out of the dream, start dating, driving, working, the edges begin to fray. They discover that a Camaro guzzles gas and insurance is a nightmare. Unless they pay cash up front, they will be stuck with a $500 payment every month. And heaven help them if someone crashes into them. Crashes are a lot more fun on screen. They learn that the military is less about glory and more about contracts, waiting and trauma. It is grueling, agonizing training and hard work. It is not always the binary black and white, good versus evil. It comes with complicated moralities and philosophical questions. Sure, you could work for the military behind a desk, but you wouldn't look as badass now, would you? And out in the field, it is no movie. There is real danger. One moment on the battlefield, and you will abandon all notions of looking cool. You will simply wish to look alive. And they find out that women are complex humans all their own and don't exist to validate their worth. That the work needed to maintain a relationship with anyone, let alone someone who looks like Megan Fox, is not like a car. That kind of work, well, it cannot be found in a manual. It takes dedication, patience, and inner reflection for both parties. And so, for many young men, the fantasy dissolves into obscurity. For a time. No more explosions, no more gear shifts, just the faint hum of memory. Transformers was not subtle. It was not trying to say something profound. It was a spectacle. Proudly stupid, but you know, it meant something. It carried weight, quite literally. Metal smashing into metal. Real cars, real sparks, real tanks on real tarmac. A film soaked in oil, testosterone, and just enough narrative to keep the audience breathing between explosions. And for boys in 2007, it was everything. It was the roar of an engine that sounded like destiny. It was Megan Fox lit like a religious vision. It was the promise that something bigger was coming. Puberty, perhaps. Manhood, maybe. And now, what do we have? Green screen neophytes and VFX rubber. Everything is smooth and weightless. A She-Hulk twerking like a PlayStation 2 cutscene. CGI has become sterile, unfinished. Even destruction feels gentle now. Where in God's name are the explosions? But in Transformers, Things crushed and crashed, and everyone was alive. There was texture and force. It was the dawn of something hard to name, a rite of passage, a mechanical, bombastic vision of adulthood. And for 2 brief hours, it made them feel like they understood something they weren't supposed to yet. Like the world was big and sexy and terrifying. The Juvenes Vulgares of 2007 are adults now, in their mid-20s and 30s. They're paying taxes, filling out spreadsheets, and yes, waiting in line at the DMV. If only someone had warned them. The life of the average adult is a far cry from the life Transformers promised. And though the franchise lives on, that special moment in 2007 has yet to be recaptured. But every now and then, once the kids are dropped off at soccer practice or overtime at some new tech startup is finally finished, the adult Juvenes Vulgaris revs the engine of his Toyota Sienna or beat-up Honda Fit, with Linkin Park blasting in the speakers and images of Megan Fox in his mind. He cruises down a sun-drenched road on his way home. Though life can be brutal and dreary, the dream is not dead. Perhaps young men today carry Transformers with them always. It pushes them onward to get the girl, to get the cars, to rise and grind and, as they say, thug it out, barreling through perils of adulthood for a chance at their own version of glory. Because of this, he will always hold summer 2007 dear to him, and the moment when he was truly transformed.